And so I was trying to connect with Nate, and somehow he's got kicked out. So let me invite him first. Okay, let's see. I see. Yeah, the Instagram is a bit weird in try. Let's see if he can join safely.
There we go.
Hi. Oh, good.
Good. I think what happened was I sent a request to be in the same time that you sent me one or accepted me. Because yeah, for some reason, like it just had the screen was like black. So I was like, ah shoot. But I'm glad we could connect now.
Yeah, I'm so happy to connect. And I was just about to say earlier that it's funny because I started this Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle live with Lissa,
Mm.
and I am ending with you, Nate.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Oh, so because what time is it for you right now?
7 in the morning.
Okay, good morning. Good morning.
Good
Top
afternoon.
top top of the morning to you. So yeah, now so the bundle ends. What time will it be for you over there?
So it ends at 12 Japan time, around 2 p.m., is it?
Okay,
It's,
gotcha.
yeah, Pacific time, 11:59
I
on
see.
11. So we have about a day and few hours, 6 hours.
Yeah,
So, right?
right, right. Well, I'm honored to be your last live. That is so awesome.
Yeah, I was just thinking yesterday, it just happened to be. I was like, what a beautiful, like, route, perfect completion.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Definitely. That is so cool.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you so much for joining, Nate. I
Yeah.
know, I am super excited. Our topic, um, uh, finding the balance between cooked and raw food.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
yeah, so I know that you include some cooked food, and I guess I will share my side. I have
Okay.
been on a raw vegan journey for over 20 years, and
Mhm,
there are periods of time that I was 100% raw vegan, and I had quite a few tweaks, and now at the moment, I just feel 100% raw feels right to me.
mhm,
But, definitely I'm open to like eating some simple steamed food or lightly, yeah, cooked food.
mhm,
So, but I think the challenge for me when I start including cooked food, the
mhm,
challenge is that where, yeah, finding the balance,
mhm,
because with cooked food, I sometimes overeat or feel a bit sluggish.
mhm.
So I wanted to hear from you. What's your journey? Where you are at now, right now?
Okay. Thanks for sharing. And let me ask you one question too. You said you were like 100% raw. How long was that for? Just curious.
100% raw. Mm, I didn't count, but maybe 3 months at the time, because then I would eat some like light cooked food. Sometimes I might eat out as a vegan or for a vegan restaurant. So yeah,
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, it's interesting. It's okay, well, first and foremost, I mean, thanks for having me on. This is great to be able to connect with you. I'm so excited that you were contributed, to the bundle this year. This bundle was so good. And I watched your live with Lissa. It was so good. I loved that live. Um, and yeah, for me, like I know we all have our stories, what brought us into this niche, this new way of life of eating nothing but raw and living foods. And um, I was raw for 7 years. No cooked foods, aside from, little things like cashews. Even raw cashews are technically not raw, right? Like I've had some frozen fruit, technically not raw because they flash pasteurize it. these little ingredients, smoked paprika, maple syrup, coconut aminos, these sorts of things. But pretty much like, other than that, just raw food. And I took a backpacking trip with my son, my oldest son. He wanted to walk across the state of Colorado, and it's 500 miles, which, what's the conversion to kilometers? What would that be? 1 mile is 3 kilometers? No, it's not. I don't know the conversion, but either way, it's 500 miles. And on that trip, I was sending myself food that I would pick up at certain spots so I didn't have to carry everything with me. I would only carry 800 kilometers. Okay, so it's an 800-kilometer trail. I didn't do the whole thing. I just did a section with him. But on that trip, I was faced with trying to figure out how I could bring my calories, the amount of fuel that I needed, and keep it as raw as possible. So, but what I did was I did incorporate some freeze dried powdered instant potatoes, right? You just add water and it's just you make potatoes, mashed potatoes. And I would add other ingredients to that. I would make my own like seed meats and stuff. So it was kind of like a shepherd's pie kind of meal. And all you'd have to do is just add water. Other than that, I had all of my cold soaks, and these cold soaks were different vegetables and seasonings. And you just, pour it into to your watertight container, add some water, shake it up, throw it in your backpack. And then as you're walking, when you'd stop, you'd have your meal. So we went to one town in Colorado called Breckenridge. It's the town of Breckenridge. And I was like, you know what? I feel like having a piece of pizza with my son. He's having gluten-free vegan pizza at this restaurant. And I got a salad, like a nice big salad. But I was like, we've been hiking for days. And I'm like, man, I just feel like having a piece of pizza. Why not? Like,
Mm.
what's it going to do to me? So I let myself go there. I didn't guilt trip myself and be like, "Oh, I'm not raw anymore," and "Oh my gosh, like what's going to happen?" Like stressing out about it. And then the next morning, we had a day in town where we didn't do anything. We just took a zero, it's called, where you don't do any hiking that day. We did some laundry and stuff. And I actually got a breakfast burrito. It was like a vegan breakfast burrito with like potatoes and scrambled tofu and vegetables, like a vegan queso cheese in a tortilla. And it was absolutely delicious. Of course, like we don't give up cooked food because it's not tasty, right? Like it's really delicious. So, but on that trip, I started to like just think to myself on the hike, why am I not incorporating foods that I really enjoy that are really healthy in a lot of ways? I mean, especially if I'm not adding added fats like butters and oils and salt and these sorts of things to, like, say, some steamed broccoli. I was like, man, I'm hiking along and I'm like, I really miss steamed broccoli. And of course, the weather sometimes would be snowing on us and raining and I'm cold. And I'm just thinking, why am I not eating some steamed broccoli sometimes? Why do I want to stay in this raw vegan box and only be raw? Because I miss these foods. These foods are things that I feel are a lot better than so many of the other things that I used to eat. um, even processed vegan foods, which it's great that we have these different cheeses and milks and butters and all these things that are plant-based, but they're still processed, maybe not the best ingredients. So that was kind of like my shift in consciousness. And then when I came home, I was like, oh, actually, what started it after that was I had some tea. I had cracked a tooth, like split the tooth down into the root from eating cherries, and I bit one of the cherry pits. Like, I whatever for whatever reason didn't spit it out, I guess, obviously. And so when I had that tooth removed, I went through the process of getting an implant. And an implant is, something that they set into the jawbone that has to heal before they can screw in a post to put like a fake tooth. So in that time, I was making raw soups, so they were like nice and warm and they were delicious. But I was like, I'm gonna have some steamed broccoli. Like I really want some. So I made like a whole crown of steamed broccoli, added some, nutritional yeast to it, put some of my soup on it, and it was really delicious. And I was like, man, this is something that I ought to be incorporating more of because I really do miss it. So from that point, I was like, you know what? I kind of want some steamed carrots too. So I would put the carrots in the bottom, put the broccoli on top because the carrots need a little bit more, time. So it would, and I'd only do it for, maybe like 3 to 4 minutes. So it's still kind of el dente, like kind of like firm, but I just really enjoyed it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll make a sauce, like a nice sauce to put over some cauliflower. I'll steam some cauliflower. Um, and then we got an Instapot, and I wanted to get the Instapot to be able to make our own tempeh out of like black bean and mung bean or like lentil and chickpea. And for those who don't know what tempeh is, essentially it's like a fermented bean dish. You cook your beans, it's fermented. And essentially, like, just to be like blatant with it, it's like moldy beans. It's really what it is. It's like moldy beans, but it's so good for you. It's a healthy fermented food. But a lot of times when you buy tempeh in the store, it's pasteurized. So it goes through a heating process to where it's not technically like raw and living. Now, of course, to make tempeh, you have to cook the bean and you have to add the starter, and there's a process to it. But essentially, it's a living food if it's not pasteurized. So we got the Instapot to do that and to make coconut yogurt because the Instapot has a yogurt setting, right? So you can make your own yogurt. And yogurts are really good to use in dressings and just have, it's a good bacteria for our gut health. So having the Instapot, I was like, you know what? One of the things that I had said to Lissa like early on, I was like, I want to be able to eat these sorts of foods around you and not have it like, mess with your head or make you feel a certain way. You don't have to eat them, but I really miss like rice and lentils. And what's really like, I understand the concepts of what raw and living foods are all about, the benefits of these sorts of foods, and, very possibly the downsides to cooked foods. And definitely the downsides to cooked foods when they're cooked in a certain way. There's, different toxins and stuff that can form cooking at high temperatures. But I'm like, you know what? Rice in the Instapot with some lentils? Yes, please. I want some of this. Now, of course, there's this book by Dr. Alan Goldhammer. It's called The Pleasure Trap. And I could see how this could be a slippery slope, right? Like, you're like, oh, I feel pretty good. I'm mostly raw and I have a cooked meal. You know what? I'll have that piece of pizza. Maybe I'll have more pizza. I haven't had pizza since then, and that was in 2022. Like, I've got no real desire to have the pizza, but for that particular event, I was like, I want that. Why would I withhold that from myself to, stay in my own mind like I'm a raw foodie only? Like I just didn't feel like I needed to be there. So since then, 2022, I have had steamed broccoli and carrots, cauliflower, beets. Sometimes I'll throw some zucchini in there. And I've also had the rice and lentils cooked, right, in the Instapot. So it is under pressure. And of course it's not raw, but it's not like forming acrylamides, AGEs, advanced glycation end products, like these cooked food toxins because of how it's cooked. So I feel like for me personally, like this is good. I don't necessarily feel that it's a bad food, but like you said, noticing this is the best part, I feel like, of this whole like you know it's so funny like picturing what's the proper word to use, like allow myself. Oh, that's a bad word. You allowed yourself this, but let's just say that's what I did. I allowed myself to have these foods. And I think what's so cool, and like you said this in your opening statement, is you could feel the difference. between what you feel like when you eat cooked food as opposed to like what you feel like when you eat raw food. Now, this cooked food I'm eating is rice and lentils. And I kind of rotate rices. Like I'll do like a whole brown basmati rice or a jasmine rice sometimes, or I'll do like a wild rice that's like mixed, like a black rice with a red rice. And I don't have that very often, maybe like a couple times a month now, because I just find that I really enjoy it.
Mm,
And then I also did some oatmeal on the trail. I have Sprouted Oatmeal. It's this company that we can get some, it's a really great company, 1 Degree. They sprout and dry their oats at 118 degrees. So it's technically a raw oatmeal. But I would soak this oatmeal and I'm like, man, I really miss oatmeal. Oatmeal's good. Like I should incorporate oatmeal once in a while. So like I said, the best part of adding these foods, and last year I was going to Oregon, um, had some family stuff going on, and I was eating more cooked foods than I had in a long time. I lost both my parents 2 weeks apart from each other, and just being in that area, like my brothers and sisters, and I was just like, I just wasn't focused on having everything raw every single day. And that's when I really noticed, because I was having some more of the processed foods. I did have bread for the very first time. Aside from that pizza, I had bread. I had tried one of those Beyond Meat burgers. Like we hand formed patty the burger and like smoked the burgers. We had friends come over and it was delicious. I had a great time. And I'm actually looking forward to going up there. I'm taking off Monday and I'll be up there for a while. I'm looking forward to having a Beyond Burger again. And but what was interesting was how shitty I felt. I felt shitty. I just didn't feel very good. You know what I mean? Like I was like, man, I can feel like because I had oatmeal like multiple days in a row, and I was like, I need to have a smoothie this morning. So I had a smoothie and I felt so much better after that smoothie. And that's where, for me personally, like if we're all on our own journey, as much as the word journey kind of like cringes me out sometimes, it's so true. We're on our own journey. Having that experience of feeling again what cooked foods actually feels like, on like a basis where maybe you're eating more and more cooked food, I was like, I don't really feel as good as I did on raw. I would rather eat raw, and predominantly raw, because I want to feel good.
mm,
So just a couple nights ago, I actually made a bowl of rice and lentils, and I had that along with a salad. I made Lissa a salad, had like a smaller bowl of salad,
mm,
and it was a little later in the day, and I just felt like so full and heavy, and was like, I'm ready for bed. And of course, it was later in the day. It was later than what we normally would eat our last meal at, but it's interesting to take note to how you feel. And for me personally, because I know everybody has their own conviction, their own reason that they do things in life or whatever. But for me, I thought it was a priceless experience to be able to feel the difference again. Because some people, like Lissa's, she's got very strong conviction. She won't even have one flowerette of steamed broccoli, not one. And because that's where her mindset is, she's like, if I have one little bit, if I just let this little bit in, she knows herself that well. She's like, the next thing you know, I'm going to have just like all I'm going to want to have is like steamed broccoli or more potatoes or whatever.
mhm,
So it's interesting. But for me personally, my balance, and that's kind of like our topic today, is sometimes I just feel like having that bowl of rice with some turmeric, some miso, maybe some hot sauce, some lentils, and I love it. And I have such a great experience eating that. I'm loving the food.
mm,
And so I feel like the balance is tricky,
mm,
because you can say to yourself, well, I love donuts and I love pizza and I love burgers and I really enjoy that. So I'm going to allow myself to have that. And for some people, maybe they ought to have that experience. Like, I mean, most people are eating that kind of stuff on the daily basis every single day. But maybe some people might need that experience to be like, wow, I actually really felt good when I was eating like high raw or all raw. Maybe I'll go back to that. So
Mm,
it's kind of like a nice little reality check, a little temp check. Like, are you sure? Are you? Because, I know, of course, like I'm not going to go get donuts and chips and French fries and all the, processed crap out there, but some steamed broccoli, some rice and lentils, like, come on. For me, I'm like, this is so clean. This is delicious. This is a higher vibrational energy of food per se
mm,
than processed foods. So the balance thing is so tricky because I do love what Lissa says, and I used this in the beginning. When I was raw, like I'm a raw foodie today. Like when I first started, I'm like, yeah, just today, I'm a raw foodie today. So it was easy to go day by day. And then she also has this thing where she's like, abstinence is easier than perfect moderation. Because what's moderation? Like, are you going to have it once a week, once a month, once a year? So I feel like the balance is really kind of like individualized. Like, what is it that, you know, you're after? And what are you trying to experience? And what do you want for yourself? For me, I want to have rice and lentils sometimes, or some beans sometimes, or maybe some scrambled tofu. I don't really feel like I need to withhold those from myself to be able to be a healthy individual. We're all going to die.
mhm,
No one gets out alive. Now, of course, the quality of life. I want a good quality of life. I want to be healthy. I understand the concepts of what raw does for me, and I can feel the difference when I eat raw. So my balance is that I eat. I eat how I want, which is mostly raw. Like it's funny because there's the percentages like, well, what percentage are you? Or like, oh, you're not fully raw anymore. I never have been fully raw, essentially, living on the tropics, eating just from the vines and the bushes and these sorts of things. But I just really missed steamed vegetables, and I loved rice. Now, of course, I don't add butter and salt like I grew up. That was how we had rice in the household, was like butter and salt on the rice. I don't do that, but I still want some like curry, like a creamy curried kind of rice dish sometimes. Why would I withhold that from myself?
mm,
And if I have it consecutive days in a row, which there have been sometimes, I'm like, I'm gonna have rice again tonight. And then I'm like, just like I didn't sleep as good last night. I don't feel as good. So it's kind of it's so personalized,
mhm.
but for me, that's how I found the balance is just when I feel like having some steamed vegetables, why not have some steamed vegetables, right?
Yeah, thank you so much, Nate. That was a lot of great information, and I really appreciate your openness. And I have quite a few questions from along with what you have shared. The first question, the quick one, did you say it was a freeze-dried potato or sweet potato?
Yeah, so they're instant potatoes.
E-
Instant potatoes are what they're called over here, and it's just it's dehydrated potato flakes. It's not freeze dried. They're dehydrated potato flakes. um so essentially they'll take, I don't know how the process is, but what I liked about this particular brand was there was no other ingredients besides dehydrated potatoes. That
Mm,
was it. So, but all you do is just add water and stir it up, and it's like mashed potatoes. Now,
that's
I would,
because I thought that potato had to be cooked.
yes, so they're cooked and then dehydrated.
Ah, okay,
Like,
cooked and dehydrated.
yeah,
Got it.
they're not raw. It's not raw.
Got it.
Um, and of course, like, if I was to suggest somebody, if they want potatoes, I say have some potatoes, man. Like boil the potatoes, steam the potatoes, make a good raw dressing, or throw some kimchi on there and mash them up. They're amazing. And
Mhm.
potatoes are super cheap. Like it's really what's added to it. And Lissa would say, and I like this kind of thing too. She's like, potatoes for me are a vehicle for oil and salt. Oh, popcorn, that's a vehicle for oil and salt. That's just another way to get oil and salt in. I'm like, man, that's a really great perspective and analogy, I'm going to leave the oil and salt off of these. I'm going to put a dressing, or I'll put some hot sauce, or like I said, maybe some sauerkraut or something. So it's like a little bit salty. But I haven't made any potatoes aside from those instant potatoes. Um, like potatoes are decent. Like I don't mind them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I like rice better than potatoes. Now I understand the concepts, like it's an acid forming, mucus forming food, right? Because it's, you change the structure, or maybe we're not meant to eat these foods this way. And I mean, because I feel like, in the 10 years, I've tried to, I'm a very open-minded person. I want all the information. Let's see what you got to say. Let's see what this study says over here. Okay, cool. I'm going to take that and I'm going to run with it. I'm going to leave that, you know, and yeah, so
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
yeah, excellent. That discernment, and also, checking on how you feel every time you eat is super important.
Yeah.
And I like that what you said. Well, there were a period of time that you were committed sort of raw vegan, because there's so many. Yeah, I mean, no truly raw vegan for a long period of time. I feel it's almost impossible. But like not feeling guilty, and yeah, like I want to, why not? So like
Yeah.
being dogmatic about it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have a question. It's like you were quite active when you first ate that burrito and pizza. You were active, right? So how did you feel after eating cooked food, like restaurant
Yeah.
cooked food?
Yeah. I felt fine. I didn't feel anything. And that was another thing I had thought to myself. I'm like, what if I'm traveling and for whatever reason, I don't want to be like, I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I'm not trying to prove that this raw diet works,
Mm-hmm.
right? It does work. Like it's how we're designed to eat. But I don't need to prove anything to anybody. I don't need to prove anything to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So moving from that kind of perspective, I've thought and of course, like I love people who have a very strong conviction and want to set a good example for other people to help them shift the way that they view food and how they treat themselves and love themselves and fuel themselves. So I can really, really respect and understand why it's nice and important to be like, no, thank you. I'm going to stick. What kind of, you're at a restaurant or maybe you're world traveling and you're, at a friend's house. You're like, what do you have that's raw here? And it starts the conversation. You start to be able to share some education. You can validate where they're coming from. There's a lot of really amazing, powerful things about that. um and I personally had thought, like, you know what, I don't necessarily feel that I need to like prove anything to anybody around me. Like, if I'm going to go to a restaurant and they've got a vegan option and I feel like having that just because I want to have that, like, of course, like I said, the pleasure trap, it's understandable. It's a slippery slope. And a lot of people have problems with addictive personalities and, and issues with food, disordered relationships with themselves and the food. So I can understand, where other people might be coming from. And of course, like it's kind of tricky being an influencer, say, because, I want to set a good example for people. But for me, like I want to be honest and truthful. And I feel that I would rather not stress on like keeping everything raw all day long, every single day, wherever we are. When sometimes you're like, dang, that looks really good, a spaghetti dish. Like, I'll eat some noodles tonight, and then, you feel yourself, you're like, oh man, I don't feel very good. Like, I don't want to have that anymore. Maybe for me, like, I needed a reminder again. Like, is that really what you want? And so that's where I try to keep it. I strive to just stay there. Steamed vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
cruciferous vegetables and root vegetables. I love them raw too, still eat them raw like every single week. Um, I mean, I'm a predominantly raw. And if somebody was to come here, like the average individual come to our house, they're going to be like, you guys are health nuts, right? Whether we're having some, it's only the raw foodies, I feel like they're like, we're kind of thinking like, oh, who's going to judge me because I'm having some steamed broccoli. So I, but I really do enjoy having those foods and I enjoy having certain experiences. We're here to experience life and not to say that one person's experience is that's how it's supposed to be done, like the way that they're living their life and the way they want to experience life, that's the way it should be done. And sometimes we can hold on to that, kind of cling on to that and be like, I want what they have. I want to do what they're doing. And I think that's great, depending on if it's an optimal way to live. Sometimes, people are doing horrible things. You don't want to be doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm like, I mean, if somebody was to come in, and I try to tell people this too, and I don't follow these rules, but say like the average individual or buddies of mine that go hunting and fishing, I'm like, man, if you were to eat 70% of your calories from raw food, and then there's 30% left, you have 25% from cooked whole food plant-based meals, low salt to no salt, low oil to no oil. And then you have 5% left over to like have a beer or like go have the fast food. A buddy of mine who's eating a lot of raw foods, he's not vegan, he's not raw, but he's incorporating way more raw into his life. He went and had some fast food. He's like, Nate, I felt horrible. He's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to eat that anymore because I felt so trashy for like 2 days afterwards. And this is the thing that I think that a lot of people, as a raw foodie, we know this because we have brought ourselves to a position to where we can actually feel so much better. I don't think that the majority of the world even knows what it feels like to feel good.
Yes, exactly. You need it's everything you're saying is gold, like gold everywhere. And I'm so grateful that you're open and you had this 7 years of committed raw vegan, I would quote, time that you were dedicated. And one day you said, well, why not? I'm feeling, I want to try it. And even though you felt sluggish, you have that feeling that, yeah, I want to try it again. So it's so important that you know how you feel when you eat certain food, but you still want to enjoy it. Why not? Yeah. And that uh, the last point that you mentioned about how fantastic we feel on fully raw vegan diet, we in a way we are sort of cursed as a raw fooder or enlightened, maybe another word to use it. It's like we feel so amazing that we want to keep on that state, and it's a fantastic feeling because then we know where to go back. I mean, yeah, relax and have what you want to eat, but you always have where to go back. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so
what
so true.
yeah, like everything you shared is such important information, and so not so many people are open. And what you were saying on, you don't need to prove anyone, and especially in this social media era that we are in, and it's true that when I did raw vegan diet, I was like, I'm never gonna ever eat cooked food. That's like dead food, you know? Oh, Sachi has joined. Hello. And that's so dogmatic and making us feel so so bad about ourselves and blaming ourselves, and not just blaming ourselves but judging others at the same time. So what you have shared and what you're doing is so powerful, and I cannot thank you enough to come out and share your journey. That's amazing. That's fantastic.
Thank you, Kiko. That means a lot. That really does mean a lot. And I don't share it on my social. I haven't come out necessarily on my social. Um,
Yes, you have. You have been.
well,
I have seen you being
yeah.
open about this.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as like showing food in my posts, I
Mm,
don't share like, here's my bowl of rice and lentils I made in my Instapot tonight, you know? I don't share that. And it's interesting because I kind of have like, maybe sort of struggled, like, how should I, you know, say come out with this? Because I would like more people to like I've said about my friends, if they were to do the 70% raw, 25% cooked whole food, and then they have 5% to play around with. The tricky part is that slippery slope, the pleasure trap, that 5% could grow to 10 to 15 to 20. But it's like, so what? Then maybe you're at 30 or 40% cooked crap food again. And then you're like, oh, yeah, actually, I felt really good when I was raw. Let me read that book again and, try to get inspired to go raw because sometimes, like in life, we really do really well at um, shaming ourselves and guilting ourselves and, um, say, just sabotaging ourselves in a lot of ways, right? But sometimes maybe we need that experience,
Yeah.
right? To remind ourselves, like, oh, yeah, I actually love myself and I shouldn't be eating dead food. Like, I 100% agree. Like, it's interesting when you put the raw vegan lens on and you look around, you're like, wow, there's no real food anywhere. It's all like dead processed food. So unless you're making it yourself, and that's where, it's so interesting. I do feel like it can be a slippery slope, and I totally respect that certain people want to stay 100% forever and never touch cooked food again. I applaud them. I high five them. I give them a big hug. I'm right with them. I totally get it. But then sometimes there might be a night where I'm like, man, I really want some curried rice. I'm gonna make some curried rice, like so yeah, I just yeah, I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody or to myself necessarily. Like, I understand the concepts and I embody those concepts, and I really love making raw food. And I live with Lissa. Like, she's the recipe freaking goddess of the world. Like, she makes so many amazing dishes, and I get to taste everything. It's really good. Raw food is really, really good. And of course, sometimes we'll just sit at the counter and eat like 5 mangoes, just have a mono meal of mangoes. Like, we love food. We're foodies. And yeah, it was on that trail. It's interesting because one night it was so cold and there was people that we met on the trail from the Ukraine, and he loved tea. Um Juju, his name was Juju. And so he had his teapot. Oh, sorry, my cat's like playing with the tripod. And he made everybody tea. And I was holding that warm cup of tea, like we're drying our socks by the fire. We just hiked through a snowstorm. And I was like, this is saving my life, this warm tea. And that was like the start of the shift. I'm like, it's actually kind of irresponsible of me to not have a stove out here to heat some water if I needed to purify some water. And of course, this is more of a survival kind of journey on a trail. You're trying to, you're enjoying yourself. You're out there for a reason, but you're like surviving on this trail. So you don't maybe have the options that you do in the, regular world or whatever. But that right there shifted my whole mindset. I'm like, warm tea. Like, what's wrong with having some warm tea? This is amazing. This is like saving me, warming me up from the inside out. And then we had that later, I had that cold soak, delicious coconut creamy curry that we made. Then I would bring those and I'd have those pretty much every day. And I mixed that with the instant potatoes. And me and my son shared that. And it was hot because we boiled the water to mix it. And that meal alone, that was before Breckenridge. That's what sparked it for me. I was like, why am I not having this kind of food once in a while? This is amazing. This is so much better than a cold mush that I've been eating for days. Now, of course, this is on the trail. I'm not in a kitchen. It's a whole different kind of world, but it shifted something for me. I was like, I am absolutely loving this. And why would I not? This is worlds better than anything that you could get out in the real world at a restaurant or anything, right? So yeah, for me, that's what it is. Like, I want to stay raw, super high raw. It's so funny because it's like, what, I feel like we mess with ourselves in our own brain more than anything but like I'm 95% raw, you
Mm,
know? Like who cares? Nobody cares. That's only like what I'm maybe telling myself, like, yeah, I'm a 95% raw foodie, or super high raw. But it's interesting because somebody could look in,
mm,
because this is how it is. Like we're not necessarily designed to be sharing how we are on social media, and very possibly thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people see you. You're going to be judged and broke down by everybody.
mm,
But somebody could look in and be like, oh, dude's eating steamed broccoli, the raw food thing didn't work, look, he's eating rice and lentils, like it doesn't work. So whatever, I'm not trying to prove anything. I don't, like, people are going to do their own thing. And
mm,
there's people
yeah.
out there, who are like dead set, like, I'm never touching cooked food. Cooked food is, that's the downfall of mankind. That's
Mm.
the devil. It's cooked food toxins. There's total validity to all those perspectives. There really is.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
saving ourselves is the most dangerous. I mean, it's more harmful than eating those
Yeah. Agreed.
broccoli or rice or lentils, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Sachi just mentioned, thank you so much for sharing really invaluable thing. I totally agree with you. The situation can be our teacher. And also,
Very good point.
yeah, I mean, Lisa had an amazing, hand wrap recipe, right? I haven't tried the sushi one, but
Oh,
it's amazing. But I seeing you and Lisa hiking, right, in the wild nature with that hand wrap, that was a game changer for me because
mhm,
I love hiking, and my husband and I both love hiking.
mhm,
And sometimes we would like to go on a long hike. And with this raw vegan journey, it was a bit challenging. And that's
mhm,
when I included like sweet potato, like grilled sweet potato, which is very easy to find here in Japan. And
mhm,
those are very, very, those simple food was very practical for me. But now that I have Lisa hand wrap, I go everywhere with that. It's
yeah.
and I have to mention your contribution of crack, spread, repeat. That's fantastic. And this is a kind of food that I used to eat a lot, especially in the beginning of my journey. And when you are super active, those kind this is a bit heavy for me. I have to eat it with a big bowl of salad. But
Mhm,
when I'm super active in a wild nature, that doesn't it doesn't I don't have feel too heavy, or I don't have that negative side effect, right? So like when you started eating cooked food, you were super active in nature. That's
mhm,
also another key.
mhm. Absolutely. It's
Mm,
so true. Yeah. And like Sachi said here, the situation could be our teacher. It's so true. And I really do feel that, we're so hard on ourselves in life already that, we don't need to, be bashing ourselves about, how perfect or clean our meal was today. And if you have, like, maybe you have a little nutritional yeast. Like I know some people like really beat themselves up and they're stressing out and they hold shame and they're like, or like, they'll say like, oh, I tried raw food and I'm off the wagon. Like I fell off. And
mm,
it's like, there's no such thing. It's like when you're on a trail
mhm,
and there's a fork in the trail, and maybe you take this fork and then you realize, oh shoot, actually, like, we're totally going the wrong way, like we're supposed to be going that way. You just get back on that trail. It's like so easy. So, but yeah, guilt and shame, that kind of stuff isn't good to hold. And I never do that to myself. Like I used to eat really, really unhealthy. Like what I'm eating now, the steamed stuff and some rice and lentils is like worlds, uh, you know, drastically different than what I used to eat. But of course, like, yeah, raw feels the best. And it's so neat to have had that. Some people are like Lissa, she's like, I don't need to feel, I know I'll feel like trash. And, I don't like feel like trash when I have some steamed vegetables or rice, but I definitely feel different than having a big bowl of salad for sure. Like it sits in me differently. And if I wasn't raw, I wouldn't even know that, like, that's a feeling. I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people are missing out on in life, in the world, is they don't really know what it feels like to actually feel really good.
Mm.
You know, we as a society, I feel like the average person you pull off the street and you say, "What's the best you've ever felt?" That's probably one of the days as a raw foodie that we feel pretty shitty. We're like, "Man, I felt horrible that day." That's like their best day, you know? So it's interesting, you know, having that frame of reference of what it actually feels like to feel good.
Yeah. I just realized thank you so much for sharing. I just realized that our live's supposed to go in 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I originally had booked with you at 3, and then I was like, oh shoot, we're doing a class with our community, which we were done in time. I wasn't sure because sometimes me and Lissa just like go off on the class. So I was like, I better book again and cancel the 3 o'clock. I'll book at 4. And then when you said, hey, we're live in 10 minutes, I was like, that's cool. We'll just do it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense because I didn't noted that this was an hour, like 15 minutes ago was supposed to be live, and I'm just getting notifications like, who am I supposed to have live?
That's
Hey,
funny. That's funny. Yeah, Lissa's going live at 4. So I was like, oh, cool, we'll go live at the same time. But this works perfect. Like we could end here in a few minutes. And then that way she can have I'm not talking and, you know, picking up on what because she's going to be making some delicious sushi for us tonight. So excited. You know, oh my gosh, so, so good.
oh my God, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for being flexible. And, it's been amazing. So the message that Nate has is that, well, go with raw vegan because that's how both of us we do agree being raw, 100% raw vegan is how we feel the, the
The
best
best.
the
Yeah.
best best. But if you want to something cooked, understanding the circumstances, and eat the cooked rice, so
Yeah.
steamed veggie, and I mean, it's not gonna harm. What harms us is sabotaging us. And I have seen so many raw vegan going nuts because
Mhm.
they isolated themselves. They
Mhm.
been going through this sabotaging, trip over
Mhm.
and over. So this is dangerous. Rice
Yeah.
beans, steamed veggie is not dangerous.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, there's taco trucks out here. I'm not going to the taco truck and getting like, if I'm going to have a cooked meal or a heat processed meal, it's kind of fun. I like, you know, because some people like cooked food in the raw community can be like such a bad word, you know? So when I want some of these cooked foods, these heat processed foods, I like to cook them myself because I know how it's done. I'm not charring it. I'm not like broiling stuff. Like we don't have we took our stove and our oven out of the house. Like all I have to use to cook anything is a electric teapot to make hot water and the Instapot. But yeah, exactly. It's not going to like I'm going to die. I know it. It's going to happen one of these days. And I want to have a good quality of life.
Mhm.
So what can I do that I have control over? Because there's so many things in this world that we don't have control over. I can control what I buy and put into my mouth every day. And raw food is like it's the way. It is the way.
Mhm.
100% agree with that fully. And yeah, you know, for me, I do I feel liberated because I'm not trying to hold myself in this box. I'm not withholding certain things that I genuinely miss. Like I could eat rice and lentils every day. I love them so much. And, you know, I also tell, you know, say like certain people that I might consult, like I like Freely the Banana Girl, her name is. She coined this term raw till four. And
Mhm.
I love that model. Just eat raw food, breakfast and lunch and raw snacks, and then have a cooked meal at night.
Mhm.
Even if you're having, like, we're vegan ethically, but I have friends who hunt, who fish, and like raise animals. Sweet. Then, you know, like there's a lot of mental shift that has to happen to get someone off of animal products. And that's that everybody's on their own journey. Some people will never come to that like place in their life where they'll release animal products. But
Mhm.
if they're only having like a little bit at night, that's still better than having starting it with the, breakfast sandwich in the day with like ham and egg and all the crap. So there's so many levels to this and to diet, and there's a lot of confusing information. And but I definitely feel that there is, our buddy John Kohler says good, better, best, right? Like you could do
Mhm.
things that are good, that's a little bit better, and this is the best, right? Fresh is the best. 100% fresh is the best. Living foods, if we are what we eat, living foods are the best.
Mhm.
Fermented foods are amazing because they're alive. And there's definitely different ways to cook your food that are not going to be optimum, right? So sticking with what's going to be the best would be steaming first and foremost, then boiling, right? And then you're getting into like, stuff, stir frying stuff on the wok. That would be, I would not eat that food. Stir fried food, I have got no desire. Like if I'm going to have something, I want to make it because I don't really trust other stuff, like if I can see it made, I'm talking, I know the person, maybe then, right? Like, at a house or something, but most people use a lot of oil, a lot of salt, butters and things. I don't want any of that crap. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah, cooking myself and eating out in a restaurant. I have worked in the restaurant business for a long period of time. I know what's going behind this. You do not want to. If you see what's going behind this, you are not going to see. And I have I have raw vegan cafe once a week in
Mhm.
downtown Kyoto, and my kitchen is completely open. Everyone gets to see, and
Yeah.
I know for a fact that what I prepare is the best food you can get in cafe or restaurant because I don't
Mm,
do it for money, right? This is just
yeah.
out of love, letting people try out what raw vegan food is. But
Yeah.
I want to be mindful of your time
Thank you.
so much. Your message, this message is so so important, not just for people who are starting, but for long time raw vegan or people who want to achieve the optimal health. Sabotaging, not worth it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much again for being honest and be the real you, who you are, and yeah, keep consistently showing up. That.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You too.
Oh,
You too. You too. Kiko, we'll have to do this again. I'd love to do it again. I'd love to hear more about your story, interview you next time. And yeah, to hear about your restaurant journeys. We have got a lot to talk about. I know we,
yeah,
we only had so much time here, but we'll do this again for sure. Thank you so much.
that was amazing. Thank you. And thank you so much for joining, everyone. See you soon.
Bye guys. Love you.
Bye. Love you.